Welcome to this ATA Insights webinar. Thank you for your ongoing interest and support of our webinar program. Today's session will begin in 2 minutes. ATA Insights Webinars is an online platform for the dissemination of professional renewable energy knowledge across international borders. Our aim is to democratize access to information, for innovation to spread faster, and to make the industry more competitive. And we do this through our online sessions, open to all our members. Every year we do more than 100 sessions with over 250 speakers, 50,000 attendees from more than 50 countries. To participate in the session today, use the chat on the right-hand side to introduce yourself, your company, and where you're joining from. Under the screen you will find the Q&A box, where you can send your questions for the speakers. We will get to as many as we can today. We're recording this session and we will send you a link to the materials in a few days. Please consider supporting our content creation for the webinar program. Contact us on the email on screen.
Hello, good morning, everyone. So welcome to today's webinar, which, as you can see, is about energy storage in Spain. So I know that you have already seen the little intro video, but rest assured, and that was mentioned there, but I just wanted to let you know that we are recording this session, so you will get the recording. Right, so yeah, so today we'll have two experts explain what's going on in Spain with regards to energy storage. We know it's a market that has been in the making for quite a while, and it looks like there are signs that it's the time has come for this energy storage market to flourish. So the first thing I will do is I will ask our speakers to introduce themselves, and then we'll start with the first presentation. And then after the presentations, you the audience will have the chance to send your questions. Actually, do send them through the Q&A box throughout the webinar, and then we'll answer them after the presentations and a few questions that I have prepared as well for them. So right, so let's start. I'll probably ask Olga, if you could introduce yourself first, Olga, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Carlos. Good morning. Hi all. Yes, I am Olga Ortiz. I'm working in Enel Green Power, the line of renewable energies of Endesa. I am in charge of the design of a battery energy storage system for Spain and Portugal. So thank you very much to ask to me to participate in this webinar. And I hope you enjoy this webinar, and we will try to respond to your questions during this time.
Thank you very much, Olga, and welcome to the webinar. And now I would like to ask Beatriz. Beatriz, if you could introduce yourself briefly as well.
Of course. Thank you guys for joining the webinar. I'm Beatriz. I'm a consultant at Clean Horizon. Nowadays, I work with Iberian markets and Latin markets. So we are here trying to explain what is happening in Spain, talking about the subsidy for standalone projects. And I hope that we can solve all the questions and the possible doubts today.
Thank you very much, Beatriz, and welcome. So right, so now I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you can share yours, Beatriz, and begin with your presentation. So I can see that there are lots of attendees who are very active on the chat. So remember to send your questions through the Q&A box. So over to you, Beatriz.
Okay, so thank you guys. As I told you before, we are here to talk about energy storage in Spain. And I'm working at Clean Horizon. That is a consulting company that has presence in different places around the world. Right now, we have 2 international offices, being one in Paris and another one in Miami. And we monitor different projects, and we are very active in different countries, including Spain. So let's go directly to the topic, because I think that's what everybody's expecting. Here is a summarize of everything that we will talk on this webinar. Just we will go on those parts later on, of course, but here is just to give you an overview. So the first step that we recommend to you to approach on the bid on this Spanish subsidy is request your grid connection associated with this project. The obtention of the grid connection right now, it's not required to participate, but you need to have more or less at least your grid connection size and the location of the project, of course, because of the externalities. But the main concept of this auction is that you need to develop your project into COD. So right now, if you already start to request for the grid connections and then you can prove that you have great chances to obtain it, can be enough for bidding on this auction. So the second step that we recommend is to do the forecast on the wholesale market and on ancillary services in Spain based on different fundamental scenarios. So I will explain more about this later. So what we usually do is to give you a very high perspective of the market where everything works well, all the assumptions, one more realistic one, and one that is low. So it's when we are not expecting that the assumptions will occur. So this taking into account the cannibalization for batteries, the different markets, including the regulations that are to be approved, and it was not approved yet. So everything is included inside our forecasts. And then after having the forecast, it's necessary to build the business case. So, and identify the optimal storage discharging duration, including the participation on different markets to estimate the missing money. Because the main goal of this subsidy is that you are requesting how much you need for having NPV equals 0. So then you can estimate with the business case and considering all the different markets. And it's important to identify what is the optimal storage discharge duration for this project. After that, we take this optimal sizing that we already took, and we do the balance for having the best project, the technical points, because you have different technical points on this auction. And sometimes you can estimate these points without increasing a lot in CapEx, because the main, I will talk better about this later, but the main constraint about the subsidy is that you have a lot of points on the economical base and a lot of points on the technical base, and you need to find the optimal balance between both. Right after, you need to build the site layouts and based on sizing recommendations and etc. And after that, you need to fulfill your document, that is the Memoria Descritiva, where you can explain how the business model works, why this project is innovative, and you also need to explain about the externalities and your permit points. So as I put here as a 0, there are different points that they are associated with their externalities. And we recommend that this should be adapted while this project is happening. Why? Because there are some points that says that you need to have a Spanish provider of the battery, or you need to find the better place. So these things there are different concepts. It's not something that we work on, but it's something that you work on different stages of the project. Where is in green, the forecast, the business case, the size, the optimal balance for the technical points and the economical points, and the site layout is where Clean Horizon can help as a consultant for these projects on our clients. So going to the requisites, the maximum value for the subsidy that every company can request, referring to the CapEx, is related to the size of the business. So large business, they have 40%, medium-sized business, they have 50%, and the small business, 60%. One project can apply for a maximum of 50 million euros, and the budget for this call, it's 160 million, being 10 million dedicated for thermal storage projects. So there is one part on this process that will be dedicated only to the thermal storage projects. The definition of large business, medium business, and small business is defined according with the turnover, the balance sheet, and the contracting employees. So for this incentive, for this subsidy, there are some criteria that they are eliminatory. So the minimum power that you need to have is 5 megawatts. The minimum discharge duration is 4 hours. And this system cannot be changed on a period of 5 years. So therefore, no augmentation should be planned before the year 5. You need to plan your augmentations and you need to plan any changes on your project only after the year 5. So as I already started to tell you, there are different criteria with different weights for earning points on this auction. The first one is the economical viability, where you need to have at least 20% of the score for being available for this criteria. The technical points, 25%. Project viability, you need to have the minimum as well. Project viability is related to permissions, access to resources, material required, risk assessment of the project, time for concessions, and etc. And externalities that you also need to have more than 20% for being able to participate in this auction, and consider factors such as job creation, contribution to the demographic development, improved supply of social culture, educational services, better transportation, and among others. So today here we'll focus more about the economical viability and the technical requirements. For the economical viability, there is a maximum reference cost per project in megawatt and in megawatt hour. And then you need to relate this with the maximum cost of all the projects and to your cost of the project, and then of how is the intensity of the subsidy that you are requiring. So inside the economic viability, you have 3 points. Point 1, that is your price in megawatt. Point 2, that is your cost in megawatt hour. And point 3, that is the intensity of subsidy that you are requiring on the auction. So as I recommended before, for doing all this economic process and for finding the optimal cost for your project in megawatt and in megawatt hour, to estimate the amount of subsidy that you need, it's necessary to build the model using price forecasts. It's a long-term forecast duration where we provide the different markets for the forecast. So as you know, batteries, they are not only used for the day-ahead market, they can be used for balancing mechanism, AFRR and MFRR. That is the case in Spain, as we don't have FCR market right now. And then this market, they are based in different inputs, such as market past data, market acknowledgement, storage deployment, market deep, weather scenarios, regulatory changes, and cost of opportunities. Right now, we do our forecast with one company that the name is Kepler. They already have the algorithm that is tailored for storage. And us, with our expertises, we do our inputs on the scenarios and we do various iterations to verify the accuracy of the results, because we have a better perspective of the market in relation to different factors such as cannibalization and etc. So after building the forecast, we need to put this forecast inside the business model. So as we have different markets on the forecast, we have done inside Clean Horizon one tool that is a trading tool for simulating the more realistic way all the different markets that you have for storage. So we put economic parameters such as storage capex, storage opex. It's something that we can estimate in-house because we not work only with these market perspectives, we also work with procurement process. And as we are in interaction with several procurement process, we have an idea, a very realistic idea of how much should be for storage capex and storage opex. As well, this tool inputs the technical parameters in megawatts and in megawatt hour and the market parameters. So when you put everything inside this tool, you are able to determine the optimal size for different configurations. In this case, the optimal discharge duration. You are able to calculate the cash flows, NPV and IRR, to easily generate sensitivity analysis, and to optimize the dispatch, and to find the optimal scenarios. So we'll run different scenarios for the price forecasts, because you don't have only one scenario, you have your high scenario, central scenario, and low scenario. And then you run all these possibilities inside of this business model that is able to do the trading capacity according with the market. So I started to explain more or less how it works. Another thing is that we can calculate these for hybrid projects as well. It's not something only for standalone projects. And it's included the grid connection capacity, it's included the ancillary services and prices. And we can provide you the tool that is an executable file. And then you can perform the optimizations yourself and generate the Excel. So there are different cases, the case where we help us to develop the business model, and the case that we developed the tool for you, and you are able to generate different results inside the project that you have. And then doing your own sensitivity analysis. Here, just trying to explain how the results will be generated. You can establish the revenue stacks. Basically, this is an example, so the capacity mechanism is not available in Spain, but you have the AFRR energy revenues, MFRR capacity revenues, and day-ahead revenues. So, energy and capacity, and then you have MFRR and day-ahead. So, establishing these revenue stacks, you are able to calculate your capex, your grid connection costs, your OPEX, and the market revenues. In this part is where you estimate the missing money, because the case now is that in Spain, you don't have the capacity mechanism, for example, so it's lacking money on your project. That's why you have the subsidies. And with this type of business model, you can put your NPV equals 0, and then estimate how much is the missing money that you need for asking on the auction. And then we go to the technical points. So I will give you just some examples of how this should be investigated. So for example, for discharge capacity, I already told you a little bit before on this webinar, but depends on the business model simulations. So we should do different simulations for different discharge capacities to see how would be the most efficient one. Efficiency, it's something that your points will be dependent of the technology type. So there are several technologies for batteries and for thermal, as already said, that it can have influence on the interference. Inertia, it's something that is dependent of the technology type as well, and it's not something that it's possible with batteries. So come back on the situation before that everything needs to be analyzed according with your business case. The reactive capacity, and the ability to withstand voltage dips and over voltages, it depends on the specification of the inverter. So can be the case that you maybe need to oversize your inverter for having a better technical points and for having a better specification on your project, and to improve a little bit more your points without exceeding a lot in capex. Maximum loading also depends of the technology type, residual capacity as well. And there are several different points that need to be analyzed individually and needs to be analyzed really case by case to see if this is related to the inverter, to see if this is related to the technology, to see if this is related to the business model or not. So on the technical documentation that you should provide on the Memoria Descritiva, you should detail about the battery technology, about the inverters, about the safety conditions, about the connection, about the cooling systems, and to prove that your project can participate on different markets. It's also one condition for the technical points. And then you need to explain on your technical documentation that your project is able to do frequency control, that your project is able to do frequency regulation, and everything, as well as the layouts. So these are the parts of the subsidy that I would like to talk, and I look forward to have your feedback. Thank you guys for listening.
Thank you very much, Beatriz, for your presentation. So, you know, you saw, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Beatriz, you're talking about the recent call for tenders that the government issued for standalone projects, right?
Right.
This is what this refers to. So send your questions through the Q&A box. But right now we're going to move on to the next presentation, which is by Olga Ortiz. So Beatriz, if you could stop sharing your screen. I think Olga has a couple of slides as well, and she'll be talking about more of the technical requirements. So stop sharing is normally at the top of the screen.
Yes.
It's a red thing, you know, just press that. Thank you.
Welcome.
So yeah, so Olga will go into a little bit more detail about the technical requirements you need to meet to take part in this bid. So Olga, over to you.
Yes.
By the way,
thank you,
I
Carlos.
can see your presentation, but it's not full screen. So maybe if you could make it full screen. If you go, I think further left, I think if you okay, I think at the
I don't
top
know
where it
how
says
to
where it says ver, I think the top left, the third option is ver, I think. Yeah, next to that one. So you have archivo, edición, ver. Next to no, not that one. So well, actually it's not strictly necessary. So go for it. We can all see your screen, so that's the important thing.
Okay. Sorry.
No problem. Go ahead.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. Yes. I am going to talk about the innovative projects, innovative hybrid projects that surely you know we had a tender for this kind of project where the battery energy storage system could be an innovator system in order to achieve this grant. This resolution will be published in the next weeks, we expect. But I want to focus in this webinar about the technical point that we have to comply with our system in order to achieve this grant. Here we have the list of these the main points. We need to comply the most of them completely, and other points are subject to different kinds of punctuation. For example, the first one is about synthetic inertia. What we can reach is with inverters most of time. Another 3-point technical point to comply is a 3-phase short circuit power contribution, where we have to have a rate of intensity current continuous regarding the nominal intensity less than 3. Other point is the primary frequency control, where we have to comply with a time less or equal to 300 milliseconds with a time of less than 1 second. Other point is about the reactive power capacity, the P and Q curves, where we have to be more or less 40% to comply with the reactive power at the point of connection. This is an important point in order to participate in reactive power capacity markets in the future. There are technical points related with power system stabilizers in order to give these functionalities to the grid. Also, we have a requirement about voltage dips and over voltage withstand capability in order to support the disconnection of the grid. Here you can see the main parameters to comply. Second of the compliance with these parameters, you have uptime more or less points. Other functionality is about secondary frequency control, as Beatriz talked before, for the standalone projects too. And the main points of these functionalities is explained in the PO 7.2 and PO 3.8. You can consult these documents, these official documents, in order to know more about the secondary frequency control. Other functionality is about run management capacity, continuous control, and it's very important to control with the battery system the maximum allowed speed, because this is a functionality to give the main points to the grid. Another one is about the switching speed, sharing the charge. The batteries need to have a capacity of charge and discharging in a time minimum of 15 seconds. This is a functionality required by the tender in order to assure we are compliant with the TSO requirements in each moment of the day. Other point is a continuous management and loading program with the minimum technical. Okay, so here you can see other requirements about the capacity to respond with contingency in the grid and the functionality of Black Start. That I think that for this functionality is important to define exactly what is the power of the energy that the battery system have to give to the grid. Please note that some of these functionalities is not specific for the batteries. Is some of these functionalities can be done because the inverter.
Atención,
So it's very
atención.
important.
Se ha producido una situación de emergencia.
Sorry.
Por favor, escuchen los mensajes que se den por megafonía.
So it's
Procedan a la evacuación del
Sorry,
edificio.
I have
Hay que usar una escalera de emergencia. No
is
usar
everything
los
okay over
ascensores.
there, or do you actually need to leave the building?
a simulacro of fire in the office now.
Procedan a la
I
evacuación
see.
del edificio.
So,
What
Beatriz,
timing?
Beatriz, if you want to talk about
Y las instrucciones de los
something
equipos de
else
evacuación.
for 10 minutes, and I can
Atención.
start after this
Atención.
time to talk about the market.
Procedan a la evacuación del edificio.
Sure, don't worry, Olga.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you,
Sigan
Olga.
las consignas que
So just coming back to the parameters for the technical tender on the battery. As I tried to explain, this going to the practical point of view, you need to refer according with the equipment that you are using, according with your business model, according with the technology. So the last thing that Olga has here, and the not last thing, but at least when she was explaining about the secondary frequency control, the primary frequency control. So even though there is no market open for primary frequency control, the government is already requesting to this as a necessity for the batteries. So Black Start as well, inertia as well. So even though there is no market right now and for primary frequency control, the Miteco, the Rede Elétrica, they already want to have the projects implemented with this capability for when you have the market, you are able to solve this problem. I think this is one of the ideas of having all those technical points, even though you have or not the marketing open, because the Miteco, they want to have this ready for future possibilities that can happen on the market. So one thing that I can say is that around on the end of this decade, it's already predicted that it will have some inertia in Spain. So that's why they need to prepare the system with Black Start and with inertia conditions. So all those different parameters, so for example, the capability to control in 4 seconds or the capability with response in less than 5 minutes, they used to be standard applications in normal storage projects. And then you can earn the maximum points on that. So that's why it's not a big concern. As I told you, on conditions like voltage drop, is that you really need to analyze the inverters and the size and to see how it works. And let me see what Olga would tell here, because she was supposed to say this part, but I think I'm trying just to test the idea. So
I have a few questions
if
as
you have
well.
questions, it would be great.
Yeah, I do. So I think, there are a few people here in the webinar who are very familiar with the Spanish market and others who are not so familiar. So I can tell, by looking at the questions. So what services? So right now, if I am an operator, what services, if I say, okay, I get, my all of my investors and I decide to build an energy storage project, what services can I provide to the grid that are remunerated in Spain?
So you can provide secondary reserve. you can provide balancing mechanism, and you can provide arbitrage. So about the secondary reserve, you have the Spanish model, but this model is about to be integrated with Picasso, that is the European platform. And then this model will change and it will increase your revenues. So you have available the secondary and the tertiary reserve and the arbitrage. So you don't have the frequency regulation and you don't have a capacity market open. Even though for the capacity market, a few years ago, it was already draw the first draft, let's say like that. And we are expecting that this market will come at some point.
Okay, so I think there is a question here that is, quite it's about the potential of a market rather than the actual reality right now. So
that's why we
Grzegorz,
provide scenarios.
yeah,
So on these scenarios, we also include the regulatory perspective. So it's possible to say on our high scenario that maybe you have the FCR ready, you have the capacity mechanism. And on the more realistic scenario, we do an estimation of the capacity mechanism according with similar European countries.
so there is a question here by Grzegorz Szymasz, and I apologize about my awful pronunciation of your name, Grzegorz, but he asks, he says capacity market bidding does not provide prices that generate higher than 5% or 6% of internal of IRR of a project. What are the expectations in Spain? So I think, if I can paraphrase it, how much revenue as a percentage of total revenue could you expect to get from a capacity market in a market like Spain once it's open? I mean, we are in the speculating.
This is a very good and hard question, because it's hard to say that you have a capacity market higher than 5-6%, but this can happen because we don't have the rules, we don't have the regulation. But comparing to similar Europeans, we are always following similar European countries with similar regulation to estimate this kind of value. So we can't come with a regulation that is out of the blue and saying that you have much more revenues than similar countries with similar regulation.
So what revenues do you get from the countries that are, well, that if there are such countries that are similar to Spain and that have a payment for capacity?
So I would say France. France is something that we are considering. Alberto did a very good question about Cosmos, because we say that it's able to analyze the grid, but it's not in terms of knowing the saturated points. So we are not able to measure the congestion because it's not something open. So the price in Spain, it's not nodal. It's the same price for the entire country. And it's not open by the regulator, all the informations regarding the congestion. What I said that we consider on the grid capacity, it's in terms of taxes and in terms of size. So we take in consideration the size that you have permitted to see how much storage you should put. This for standalone and this for hybrid as well. But for hybrid, it's a little bit more interesting because you need to do a perfect size for storage according with the your solar or wind power plant to find something that it will not over size the capability to the grid.
Great. So I think there is a question here. So Milton Ceron asks, is it now possible to participate in the secondary and balancing market with only batteries? So can standalone batteries take part in these markets, or do they have to be tied to an energy project?
No, they don't need to be part of an energy project. Basically, those projects, they are able already to participate on this market, balancing and secondary, and it's not a problem.
Okay, great. So more questions on the capacity market. Any idea when the capacity market will be available in Spain?
So
We-
last time that I heard news about Miteco, it was around 2025. That is before the COD of the project. So this is great for us. We are talking a lot about the project and the subsidy, but we are not talking about deadlines. This is because we don't have this yet. So it's not defined the subsidy, the timeline for sending your subsidy and etc. But it's defined that your project needs to be ready in 2026. So it's a good information that you probably will have a capacity market before that, but it's also a risk because those type of informations of when it's coming, how it's coming, it's something that is changing constantly.
Okay, great. So I think so. There is one question here by Leon Haupt, and he asks when he asked, is this tender framework what you have shown, Beatriz? Is it only for standalone storage systems?
This one, yes, it will be only for standalone systems because for the hybrid systems, we already had this in March. So this fund that we are talking about, this subsidy in form of CapEx, it's part of the European subsidy, the Next Generation Fund. And it was split already. So in March, you had for hybrid projects, and right now we will have for standalone projects.
Okay. So I see a few questions here about when when is this open? So Pere Soria, for example, asked, do you know when the opening call for proposals is going to be? So
We are expecting something for after summer, maybe probably in September. The call is not open, but you have the first draft for the rules. The rules probably will not change a lot because they are very similar to the previous subsidy. But we are trying to explain this very beforehand because when the call is open, there is the chance that you'll not have a lot of time for developing your project, because it was the case of the one in the beginning of the year that you had very in advance all the rules, and then you had the call with the deadlines just a little bit before you needed to present, and then it's a lot of things. So if I can recommend to you something, I would recommend to start to work on that right now, at least to have the basic parameters about where your project is and what you're gonna be, what's your size, and otherwise you'll not have time.
yeah, I think that's a good recommendation. So Federico Minoli has a question. He says, thanks, Beatriz, for the great explanation on tech and economic criteria. Can you give us more insights on the externalities criteria?
I can't give you more insights because it's not something that I'm working on closely. What I can give you as an insight, as I saw on the previous auctions for the hybrid projects, is that you earn more points if you have a Spanish supplier for your technical part and economical part. So it's possible that may worth in terms of CapEx and the technology to have your Spanish provider. But it's not something that I'm expect. It's just something that I saw on previous auctions, and it's something that you need to do a balance. Like we do on the technical points and on the economical points, you need to put a balance on the externality points and on the economical points.
Okay, so there are some people here asking about which subsidy this is and what the tender is. So what I will do actually is I'll refer them to the link of the where the Miteco, the ministry, published this information, so you can have a look at it. But it is a defined subsidy. I'm not really sure where the funds come from, but I think they are EU funds. Is one of the EU programs, and it is. I think it's up to 150 million, right? That is for this.
Actually, 160.
160.
But
right.
10 million is for thermal.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's capped at 160. But yeah, once I get a chance, I'll share the link through the chat so you can see what tender we are talking about. So Olga, are you okay? So the building isn't burning or anything, right? You're safe.
Yes. Sorry a lot because
No problem. How could you
we
how could you
didn't
tell?
know that. Okay. If you want, I can finish with the market functionalities of the BESS. I let the presentation in this point. I can talk about that in these minutes if you want.
Yeah, okay, go for it. So we have a number of questions here, but if you can finish your presentation, then we can answer as many of them as we can.
Yes. Okay, here we have the main benefit, the main functionalities that the battery energy storage system can support to the red for risk mitigation, and the main economical benefit participating in the markets. So for the first part about the economic benefits, we have the energy arbitrage, load shifting, when the storage can capture the price spread by charging during low prices hours and discharging during high prices hours. So this is a very important functionality in order to get revenues. Another functionality is about secondary reserves. This consists in the automatic correction service, upward, downward, and remuneration for capacity regulation and use. So this is an important point as the tertiary regulation, where there is a fast energy dispatching service upward, downward. So I think these 3 points are the main importance in order to get economical benefits. Other point could be the technical constraints, where the BESS participate in the resolution service that contains a deviation from the Greek technical safety condition through a variation of the dispatching schedule and the expected curtailment recovery. Here the storage allow the recovered power plant production due to expected grid curtailment. So this point is very important in order to maintain the safety of the grid too. About the risk mitigation, we have as the first point, risk imbalances reduction, where BESS contributes to minimize the deviation between the production of the renewable plants forecast and the actual and real-time production at generation portfolio level. So it's a way to equilibrate the real production with the forecast. About the unexpected curtailment recovery, the battery energy storage system allows to recover power plant production due to the potential grid curtailment. To finish, we have the portfolio project, the portfolio effect, where BESS provide a benefit to the portfolio in terms of reduction of the exposure to AFRR, reduce the need of redispatching, increasing the flexibility, and reducing the HC on cost, because about the compliance with the fluctuation requirement. So it's a way to improve the operation maintenance cost too. This is from my side the best points that I wanted to share with you about the technical, economical, and risk mitigation characteristics of the battery energy storage system. Thank you, Beatriz, for the time that I had to go out.
No worries.
I don't know if do you have any question, Carlos, of the assistant?
Yeah, there is a question here actually. Someone, Antonio de Ferreira is asking, so is there a criteria regarding BESS duration? Is there a minimum duration for the battery energy storage system?
Yes, about duration, for example, in the tender for innovative hybrid project, where the BESS system is a component of innovation, we have requested at least 2 hours of discharging, at least. But for example, for the standalone tender that Beatriz explained before, we have requested at least 4 hours of discharging. So we have seen, we have noticed in the last month that there is attendance in order to be requested a time of discharging higher.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Olga. There is a question here that, I mean, I suppose it's a matter of opinion. I think you have my own opinion, but someone, Perez Soria asks, is there any risk for these kind of tenders associated with the elections on the 23rd of July? So would the outcome of the elections change anything? I
So
suppose.
my point of view, it's something that is not changed with the elections because it's an European fund. So this is not a fund that is dependent from the Spanish government to approve. This is a fund that is coming from the European Union as a general. So on my point of view, it's not something that can be able to interfere on the elections and on the local government. But Olga, you are the Spanish, you are there. I think you have a different or maybe the same point of view.
Yes, I think the same. About, for example, the question done by Carlos Molina about which are the basis for 4 hours of duration requirements. As Beatriz said, this is a requirement of European funds. It's not a internal requirement of the companies. I think that because the time of discharging for the grid would be a necessity of the TSO in the future. For example, as a note, one second only, as a note for the innovative project where the minimum of discharging time requested is 2 hours, you can obtain more points if you design your BESS system with more time of discharging. So this is a clear tendency in the future that we will ask a longer time of discharging.
Exactly.
So there is a question here. There are a couple of questions regarding grid connection points. So one of them is like the latest one, what Milton said on here. He asks, how easy is the procedure to obtain a grid connection, in Spain? So I don't know if you have a view on this or an answer. And the other one is whether with the Cosmos software, you can identify the points that the nodes are most saturated on the grid.
So for the points of saturation on the grid, it's not something that I can identify, and it's not something that other companies can identify because this is not public data. So in Spain, you don't have nodal prices, and it's not something that it's open by the Red Eléctrica, and you can estimate the entire grid and do the power flow of the grid. because you don't have all the data for doing this analysis. It's something that we do as a company, but it's not something that we can do as a company in Spain because it's lacking data. But for the permission access, Olga, I think you have a better
Yes.
answer than mine.
Yes, about the permission, it also depends if, for example, you want to do a best project hybridized with a renewable project system in operation where you only have to modify the access and connection, or if you want to ask the permitting for a point of connection where you have been concessed the capacity. In this case, could be more or less easy. It's important to take into account that a clear regulation for the best system is not totally clear. But in these years, our experience is that we are working together with the modification of the regulation. So we are doing this together. About standalone, for example, in our experience, it's important to have the capacity of the point of connection clear before to start the permitting phase. So also we are waiting the capacity tender of the Spanish government. We are waiting this that last year. And this is very important in order to start the permitting phase of the most of project, because it's necessary to know the capacity in the point of connection on the grid.
Thank you very much, Olga. So I think, well, we have 4 minutes of our allocated time left. So I think we have time for one more answer, for one more question. So, you know, is there anything that you would like to tell the audience before the webinar ends? Because I think, you know, now it's the time.
Just to say that I already told everything that we can help you if you don't know on the project. So just feel free to reach out to us and to send us an email if you have further questions. If you want to help to build your business model or anything related like that, just feel free to reach out to me, and then we can have another chat to talk about this auction.
Thank you, Beatriz. What about you, Olga? Anything you'd like to mention? I'll probably like squeeze another question in, but you know, just so we don't run out of time. So is there anything that is important about these tenders that you think that the audience needs to know about before we leave?
Can you repeat, please? Because I don't understand.
Oh,
very
no,
well.
sorry. So if there is anything that you think it's important about these tenders that have been issued now, that the audience needs to know before before the webinar ends.
Yes. I only, for example, I would like to respond to Romain Wenzel that asked about the tender in the Balearic Island. I would like to respond that yes, we are working in this tender now. We have to present the offer before the 28th of July. I mentioned, we mentioned that before. And the requirement is a very little difference than the other tenders, because we have to comply with the battery energy storage system with a minimum percentage of the renewable plant. But regarding the technical point to the grid and the functionality to the market is very similar to the other tender, only change some things due to the characteristic of the island grid, but the most of them is very, very similar. From my side, anything else? I will respond the question by mail or in the chat later. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Olga, and thank you very much, Beatriz, for your presentations and all of the insights you have shared on these tenders. So I did send the link to the announcement that the ministry made on this tender. And well, if you have any questions that we haven't answered here, feel free to get in touch with the panelists who have shared the email addresses on the chat as well. Well, I just want to say that we do have a like more, if you like this type of content, you know, come back to us, you know, where we are. So it's my.atainsights.com. Also we have an annual event that we organize, and this year it's already been, but 2024 is actually not that far away. So we'll be in 2024, the event will be in the first queue. So we hope to see you there as well in Toledo. So well, I think it's time to bring the webinar to a close. So once again, thank you to everyone who's been with us in the audience, and thank you to